So Pokemon Sword and Shield are coming out later this year, and I'm a little bit worried. What about you, co-host?
Honestly, at first I wasn't, but now it just kind of seems like they're ignoring actual concerns.
Agreed, and to be fair, do I think they're still going to be fun games? Yes. Do we have them reserved? Currently, though, I guess if things continue to look concerning, that can change. Just because we're a Pokemon YouTube channel doesn't mean we're obligated to own every single game. I still don't own any of the Pokemon Ranger games.
That's sad. I tried to buy some and he told me no.
I know, I need them, but they were too expensive. But anyways, Pokemon Sword and Shield are concerning us, and we want to give you 5 reasons why we're worried about Pokemon Sword and Shield today on Master Trainer, the channel aimed at helping you become a Pokemon Master, and also for us to just talk about a video game series that's probably aimed at a demographic much younger than we are. We feel like Gamefreak has gotten a little bit too complacent, and I think they know that no matter the quality of it, much like with Sonic 06 perhaps, this game will sell incredibly no matter what the quality is. So let's get into 5 reasons why we're concerned about these games.
Reason 5, the National Dex, which unfortunately wasn't an issue for me at first because I do understand we're not always going to have games with every single Pokemon. You don't play with every single Pokemon, you play with like 7, and you just don't want to admit that you never played with Maractus before.
But the thing is, the issue I have with that though is Maractus is someone's favorite. Like,
yeah.
When I heard the news, I know for a fact that one of my favorite Pokemon is one that a lot of people forget about, and that's Donphan. I love Donphan and Phanpy. They're fantastic Pokemon, and much like with one of my other favorites, the Camerupt line, it's probably gonna get axed from Pokemon Sword and Shield. They aren't fan favorites, they're just ones that weird people on the internet like me enjoy.
Well, and my biggest concern is that, you know, for so long, Vulpix was one of the only fire types outside of a starter, and now my favorite Pokemon is being threatened.
Yeah, and the one thing that concerns me the most is with how they handle Pokemon. Unless your Pokemon's one of the new Pokemon, or let's be honest, from Gen 1.
Yes.
Whether it makes it in or not is probably a crapshoot. And I think that's okay to say on the channel. That's not swearing.
Yeah.
Cool. And I get it. You can transfer every single Pokemon you have to Pokemon Home. And since they said that Pokemon Home might have some more game features, one way to circumvent this would be to make Pokemon Home a battling app.
Yes.
That would be cool, but I feel like it's highly unlikely. So with that, let's go into issue number 4 we have, and that's the graphical, just the graphical issues, the graphics as a whole. Have you seen the gameplay demo, the footage?
Yes, where it kind of doesn't look like a Switch game. It looks like something on the Wii or even the Wii U.
Yeah, like I'd say Wii U is even generous. Like we've seen floating tiles, we've seen shadow glitches, we've seen Poppin' that reminds me of like a PS1 game.
Yes, I didn't want to bring in like the PlayStation, but yeah, it looks like very early PS2.
Yeah, with the Poppin'. And the graphics, don't get me wrong, aren't hideous. They aren't hideous, but they don't look great.
They don't look like what they kind of promised with the first trailer they dropped.
It just doesn't look great. Like, did you see the Dynamax battle where the Steelix literally just popped out of existence for a few seconds? And
yeah.
I hope they fix it, or I don't know, or if they, I know it's been 6 years, but I really kind of hope if this is what it looks like in this state, that they delay it, because I was expecting something, I wasn't expecting like Breath of the Wild or whatnot, but I was expecting something a little more polished.
Seriously, delaying it is not going to be a big deal for us.
No, if they delayed it again, look, if you delay a game just because you don't think the quality's up to snuff, that's fine. They did it with Metroid Prime 4 because they thought that they delayed the new Animal Crossing because they wanted employees to have a better work-life balance, which is also a very acceptable reason to delay a game.
Yes.
We get it. Game Freak and Nintendo want Pokemon to be a yearly series, but don't do it at the sacrifice of quality.
Yes, like it's hard to compare it to like Breath of the Wild, but they kind of started to with the quote-unquote open world, and now we're seeing that like we can have something like Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild exists, and it's a few years old now, like.
And I guess going into number 3 is we're getting to issues with Game Freak itself. We kind of aligned into that. But it reuses assets from X and Y. It reuses animations. And here they're talking about how good like Aerodactyl's teeth look and how they've had to cut Pokemon for a new anime, but
quote-unquote.
they're literally reusing animations. If every Pokemon was fully animated to the extent like in Battle Revolution, where they were actually going up and fighting each other and whatnot, which looked beautiful for a Wii game. It's not a terribly great Wii game. You can battle and that's about it in it, but
which makes sense. It's literally called Battle Revolution.
I guess, but if a Wii game that's over a decade old now looks more impressive than your Switch game does, we have issues, especially since, you know what else is kind of an issue that our friend Rose, Crow Cuddles on Twitter, for those who are interested, pointed out.
Twitch.
Yeah, IRL Toasty on YouTube and Twitch. Yeah. She pointed out to us that Pokemon's Sun and Moon, aren't there like 4K models available of every single Pokemon? Yeah. I think they're 4K. What's wrong with just importing those? If you really, I mean, like, it wouldn't be the first time when Pokemon Coliseum XD were made, half those models were just imported from the Stadium games.
Yeah.
You could tell which ones they were, but at least they were there. The issue is not only is the graphics not where they should be, but obviously, they shouldn't have a problem reusing models from previous games, seeing as they're already reusing, like, animations and whatnot, and that's kind of rough.
And speaking of things that Gamefreak is unwilling to talk about, let's talk about the fact that they're very unwilling to address fans and fan concerns.
And it's funny because I feel like Nintendo's finally come around to this. They were very bad with YouTubers a while back. They had their creators program, which was a mess and whatnot, but they're just now coming around, you know? And I feel like there's a Pokemon community and there's the Pokemon Company and Gamefreak, and I feel like they are completely separate. Even with stuff like the Pokemon World Tournaments and whatnot, it feels like even though people participate in those tournaments, let's be honest, the Pokemon community as is very, very separate from the companies who are in charge of the franchise. I feel like there should be more of a willingness to really acknowledge that there is backlash going on. Maybe even talk to some YouTubers or prevalent Pokemon featured websites about these issues, and maybe even through that kind of say, hey, this is how the games are, but there will be an update. You know, there will be a patch day one. I hate day one patches, but it's, quote, Ben Judd, who worked on Mighty No. 9, it's better than nothing. If an overwhelming number of people are saying, hey, we want these things. Hey, this does not look good. Hey, maybe you should delay this. Hey, maybe. But there is one last thing that we'd like to talk about. One more issue with this that's more of like a podcast style episode. I'm enjoying this.
The return to gyms after what Sun and Moon did.
So, Sword and Shield are trying some new things. Instead of traditional routes, I'm assuming we're not having traditional routes, we have the wild areas, which is cool. I like that. It's like semi-open world. We have like the raid battles and whatnot.
Honestly, I'm excited about raid battles, but I think they could go wrong really fast if you don't have other people to play with.
Oh, I agree, but I think that's cool, but then what else? Are we going to have another traditional evil team plot? Like, because Sun and Moon, for all of its issues, had a really cool story with like the two, you know, teams and whatnot, but wasn't like a Ruby Sapphire thing. I love Team Skull. They're my favorite group of misfits. But my thing is, the Sun and Moon games had the Island Challenge, which was very similar, you know, to gyms, except instead of going and collecting gym battles, collecting gym badges, you were collecting, what was it, the Z crystals? And you had to go through challenges and fight, like the giant Pokemon, which I think were kind of predecessors to Dynamax ones. So you could actually get them in the Ultra games, which is cool. But I found that interesting because while it wasn't super far away from what we've come to expect from the games, it was something different. But now, even though the gyms all have like the stadiums for the actual gym battles, they're still just gyms. It's still back to gyms, and I'm wondering, even though they're saying the wild areas and Dynamaxes are new and whatnot,
are they really though?
What are the wild areas but glorified routes? I mean, we can see the Pokemon in the overworld, but that was in Let's Go.
That was like, that was the big thing in Let's Go, is that you could see the Pokemon.
Is this still gonna, I'm imagining this is still gonna be a super linear, one gym to the next thing. There's gonna be an evil team. I feel like while Sun and Moon tried to do something that was different but the same, this feels like they're trying that again, but somehow it feels less. It's hard to explain, but I feel like Sword and Shield were being billed as these grand new adventures in the Pokemon world, but it truly does feel like more of the same. I know people have had that issue for years, but I don't know. It's weird to hear.
We have potential for something is just kind of being...
But, you know, I like the new Pokemon designs. I think the games are going to be fun, but I really do feel like the return to gyms. I feel like the wild, I haven't seen enough of the wild areas to know if they're really anything more than glorified routes, and I'm worried about slowdown and whatnot now, and the poppin'. These games look like they could be rough, very rough. And you know what my biggest worry with all of this is?
What?
Sword and Shield will sell gangbusters, right?
Yeah.
But if they come out in this state, what if instead of actually patching this and whatnot, we go 2 years and we just get Pokemon Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield with also a bunch of content that they were planning for these games, but then held back. And if that's not some salt right there, I don't know what is.
Or even getting like a third version which fixes it. Hello,
Emerald version, or Platinum. Literally Platinum fixing my issues. But we're rambling right now, aren't we? We're angry Pokemon fans on the internet. We aren't going, oh, these are gonna be bad games, because for all we know, what we've seen are the E3 demos. Things can change. Though also we are so close. We are so close. I'm kind of worried. And I wish Gamefreak would be a little more open, because I am kind of, I don't want to say myth, but I'm worried.
I don't want to postpone buying it until I can see somebody else prove that the games are going to be more than okay. But that's kind of how I feel right now, is I don't want to buy it until...
Because I think I'm going to say one more thing before we end off, and that's this. Are we cautiously excited for them still? Yes. Do we see a lot of things we like? Yes. Yamper and Wooloo are two of the cutest Pokemon I've ever seen. But
I'm
also...
sorry, but I rep the original Marie.
So with that, thank you very much for watching today's video. Do you want to tell them to do the thing?
Subscribe, hit the bell.
It helps.
Drop a like, drop a comment.
Are you worried about Pokemon Sword and Shield? Are we overreacting? Are we just a bunch of weird YouTubers on the internet who went on a ramble for 20 minutes about 5 reasons we're worried about Pokemon Sword and Shield?
Probably.
Probably, but let us know. So with that, thank you very much for watching.
I'm James.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm Elliot now. We're going to be doing more videos together since we recently got engaged, and we will see you next time.